Hello, beautiful people. Facebook and YouTube. I'm probably going to keep this short, mainly because I've been sick for the past few days. I don't know what I have. It's more than likely the flu. But I wanted to get on here and talk about actually Gullah and basically, I'm not looking at my notes real quick. Yeah, I came down here 30 years ago to South Carolina after Hugo had hit, and I learned a lot since then, mainly by the people that live down here. Um, I grew to love Edisto Island and the Gullah tribe. For those of you, and I know 99% of you don't even know who I'm talking about when I speak about Gullah, or that if you watch the movie The Patriot, it's actually where the islands that he ran to, those people pretty much brought the Western Africa traditions over here. If you watch anything on them, it's bizarre to me because that's not the people that I originally met down here. And I'm just starting to ramble because it doesn't feel like I'm actually talking to anybody. As I said, I'm sick. But I wanted to do a video today. I've been trying to do one for the past 3 days, and every time I take medicine, I just kind of get loopy. Oh, as far as that love story, the second one, because of before Christmas and this time of the year, I didn't want to go into it because it's actually a person that didn't want to be here anymore. It's kind of a heavy story. It's got a lot of great things to it, but it wasn't a story for this time of the year. The Gullah tribe it kind of goes into, I mean, as far as when I came down here, I was a young person, didn't really know much, and I was actually studying history of the Civil War and all that crap that they taught you in school. When I came down here, my mind was blown away so many times. I actually met a man who was happy to call himself a slave. He says, I don't have to deal with money. I don't have to deal with anything. I got a free house back here. My kids went to college. The strong ties between the family that basically owned his people had taken care of him and schooled them. And it kind of blew away my whole view from Roots, the TV show. The Gullah people, exact same thing with them. Everybody was talking about them as being voodoo, and you don't want to talk to them. We started talking. Actually, even before I actually met them, I'd actually seen one of their models of this is a rice plantations area. Mainly, it was you have cotton, but it was really a rice plantation. The swamps and the canals down here is for feeding those old rice plantations. And those people down there, when you got to talk to their elders, they didn't see themselves as slaves. They thought it was better over here than it was in Africa. I mean, as far as their traditional stories. I don't see that today. I don't hear that today. I don't see that anywhere. This is just coming from me talking to them from probably 30 years ago. But first story that they actually told me when I went down and met them was about concrete. Who came up with concrete in the Americas? Um, the best what we use today as far as concrete. They said that was their traditional way of building. And I was kind of like, yeah. But then when I looked it up, it did come from this area. I always think of Pennsylvania and their concrete manufacturing, but actually South Carolina. And even the funny thing about that was the people that I'm talking to and their traditions, which Gullah and the whole thing of over in Western Africa, the Dogon tribe. I mean, these were very smart and intelligent people. I mean, even in Maryland, you have the man who laid out D.C., Benjamin Banneker. He was from the Dogon tribe. They didn't think in one dimensional. I mean, it's the exact same thing as Tesla. I mean, they were coming up with ideas with him. With those four-sided clock. He's the man who helped the Frenchmen lay out D.C. the way it is today. But the whole thing down here with concrete, it was kind of like the rice to how to keep the water level perfect on a rice field. I mean, that's ancient knowledge from Africa that is documented for 40,000 years in Africa. And if you start looking into that, you start seeing, I mean, the rice was imported. It's actually Chinese. I mean, it's not the American what they call dirty rice. It's actually the Chinese, and it actually started all clicking with me with these the Gullah people. And the house I have behind me right now is one of their. It's kind of one of the trademarks when you're driving around down here on Eddystone Island and all the islands. When you start seeing houses with the blue frames, um, I didn't want to show a modern day house where somebody may be living in it, so I just chose this picture off the internet. But that's kind of one of the signs that it's Dogon. I mean, Gullah Geechee. There are sayings. What they told me about the blue window frames and the blue doors, is to keep the bad spirits out. It's part of their cultural awareness. But the funny thing is from me viewing it, it's actually confuses bugs, keeps the bees from going in. It's actually the sky color. Um, it may have been something that actually was before they were using glass that they were doing that to throw the bugs off. But their belief system is so integrated. And one of the things that I really loved about it is they didn't believe in owning property. Um, One of the things that are going on today, I mean, the whole thing of, I mean, these were slaves living there, but truthfully, like they said, was the owner actually was only there for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks out of the year. The rest of the time, they were free to do whatever they wanted. So they actually never felt like slaves. Who would want to run away? I mean, they had their community, and their community was actually more powerful than the plantation that it was on. So they didn't see themselves as slaves. That's why I say the whole idea of roots back in my mind when I was a little kid and coming down here and then talking to these people. These people actually did not like the other Africans that lived down here. The ones I consider elders in the Gullah tribe, they actually spoke way down to them because it was their people selling out to the modern ways. And over the past 30 years, there still is Gullah Geechee, and if you look on here as far as tourism, but those stories don't match the knowledge that I was getting from these people. As far as the rice plantation and the knowledge, I never even thought about, you know, why would Englanders come over to the United States and start rice fields? But it was actually the knowledge that was all coming from Africa, which was bizarre to me. But the whole thing of not owning property, it was communal. It was communal property. And that's one of the things that's tore apart them over the past 30 years since I was here before. Um, is because now the families, same thing happens in Hawaii and other island nations that actually didn't believe in ownership. It was basically the community owned it. So the family name was put on that property. And it only takes one person in that family with greedy aspirations to sell that property right out from under the rest of you. And it happens all the time down here. I mean, all the big popular islands down here were sold off. Eddystone wasn't touched when I was here before because they didn't have good, clean drinking water. But it's all changed now. But at the same time, there's actually a lot more peaceful in this community. If I really get into the view, I mean, there was a lot of weirdness 30 years ago that went on down here. It was, my viewpoint from Baltimore to down here was actually Baltimore's more racist than down here was. But down here, you had to join the country club or join the club. As far as all the bars, you had to join the club. That was a way of keeping people they didn't want out in the club. That stuff doesn't go on today. Same thing with selling homes down here. They'd always say sold, and I'm like, oh, this nice house. Too bad it's sold. And they're like, oh, just go talk to them. That was a way of keeping the racism going underneath the lines, and that's no longer around down here. As far as the community goes, but This video is just a rambling video. I'm sorry, I keep taking medicine for it. It's actually my sinuses and my problem with my teeth. It's the same thing that I was having last year. Last year, I may have had COVID or whatever it was because it was really getting to me. This time, it's just my sinuses um, and the flu. But when the weather's changing, I seem to go off and get sick at these times of the year. Down here, I mean, normally this would be later in the year, springtime, but down here with the temperature changes, I mean, it was actually almost 80 degrees the other day. Staying warm now, it's actually temperatures dropping right back down again. And this whole thing with COVID, I just want to stay away from people. I wanted to talk about, and I know I'm not even doing a good job at it because I'm drifting all over the place, but the Gullah people, it was a very powerful tribe. And there's actually, I can't even speak to just one, the Edisto Island Gullah people that I've actually talked to their elders back 30 years ago. Every time I go down there, I'm always looking for them today, but it's evolved and it's actually very sad looking to me. The houses that I see behind me right now are the houses you would have seen 30 years ago. Most of those houses have been plowed over. There is still Gullah people down there, and those people, I mean, they have nice houses, and I wouldn't take pictures of their houses. I don't want to spotlight anybody. That's something I've always had an issue with is, taking a picture of somebody's house without talking to them. A lot of people see them as voodoo because they don't talk to them and all that, and they do hang chicken bones up on their lines and things that you would just, it's not Christian, it's not our viewpoint. And it's one of the things that you see when you look on Gullah. They're trying to downplay that as far as tourism, but that is their beliefs from Africa. I mean, they really naturalist. I mean, they really honored the spirits that they took, the food that was provided, and it's just a weird viewpoint from most people. But truthfully, they believed in the community. Whatever they did, any extra food that they produced was given out to the community. I had spoke to them about religions and all that, and those religions, I mean, their belief systems was to share everything. They shared everything. There was no profit money exchange, and even 30 years ago, it wasn't like that. I mean, if somebody went fishing and caught a lot of extra fish, it was given to the community. Everything was openly shared. People talking about being sovereigns, and all these people lived sovereign, and it's disgusting with me with YouTube in the past 10 years watching them with the real estate, because their property went from being next to nothing to being worth millions of dollars being out on these islands, and how they were backstabbing each other. One person in the family in Chicago that doesn't even understand their culture was basically buying up the property because of the family name and selling it out from under the people that were still living on that property. At the same time that was going on, it's the same thing that went on with Hawaii with all the people that own those properties. And actually, it's Facebook owner that bought that property, and it was basically all you had to do was get one person from that family to lay claim to it, and there goes the property, and whoever the freaking 100 people that are living on it get kicked off of it. I'm kind of pointing at them. It's like not something we could go back to, but these people were on the right track. They were openly sharing. It was an open community. Our viewpoints are so freaking messed up in the school system. I wish they would actually talk about the Gullah Geechee. I call them Gullah. A lot of places they call them Geechee. I never actually even heard the term Geechee down here. I know it's the language. Edisto Island, I could actually talk to them and understand them. But I also met people up north that were called the ankle bracelets. And what it is they don't wear any flashy things, very simple clothes, but you could tell them because they would always wear, just on their ankle, they would have a bracelet on. I don't know why. A lot of people call them the Cajuns. Those people I actually talked to, I could not understand a word. Our communication couldn't work at all. We'd end up just smiling at each other and nodding, wave and just walk off. But it was just a cool thing. As far as Hugo, when it hit down here, there was no racism going on at all. Everybody helped everybody. I came down here basically the year after because right after Hugo, there was nothing was going on. The government was trying to help, but the flood of materials coming into this area was actually really chaos. The year after, when pretty much production got down to normal as far as like Home Depot, Lowe's, and getting stuff in here, that's kind of when I came down in here. And a lot of that work was going back after the contractors that did it the first time just didn't do it right. Hey, DW Vincent. It's been a while. Good to see you on here. I'm just rambling. Every time I take this sinus medicine, I just kind of lose it. But I wanted to put a video out here today because I keep saying I'm going to do a video and I just never get around to doing them. And I don't think this is actually making too much sense. But I'm going to leave it up and I'm going to follow up this weekend on doing videos. Yeah, it's a full moon, so I'm kind of using that to force myself to keep doing videos, or at least put one up today. As far as energy, and I keep saying I'm going to talk about that, and I never get around to it. I will get around to it. I'll definitely do on Saturday as long as I'm feeling better. But this is more of a talk and possibly just a ramble. The movie Patriot, though, when I watched that movie, which is after I was down here before, I was intrigued that they put that part in there that when his house was taken over and the British were invading Charleston, they ran to the Gullah tribe, and that's because the Gullahs, the people down here, that actually a lot of them were saying that they'd been here longer than the whole thing with the slave trade and all of that. If you go back and read the Spanish writing down here, that these people down here had fireworks and they were living in stone houses, which at the time when I was thinking of stone houses in Maryland, there actually is old stone houses in Maryland, and those stone houses are made out of granite, were carved. I'm still trying to slowly research on who the heck built those homes. But down here, if you take a look at the town of totally go blank on that. There's the big town that's at the very bottom of South Carolina, Beaufort. If you look at Beaufort, they actually have a lot of homes that are extremely old for that area that were made out of mainly shells, oyster shells and all that. That's actually, when I was studying concrete globally, it comes out of like China. China has communities that are all stone houses, and they were doing it. Again, there's China again involved in that. But even the Spanish knew. You got coquina rock, which is what the forts are basically made out of down there in Florida and a lot of the places. It's a natural formed. You can call it a concrete. It's a natural concrete. But they were actually learning. They were actually using that if you ground it up and if you mixed it mainly with volcanic ash, which is one of the weird oddities, is how they make concrete today. And that's one of the things. There actually is an ancient volcano in Georgia, right along the river, and you can find the rocks in this area by grinding that up. You can make concrete. But it was funny that all the history that I actually did know coming down here, looking at them with those gates to maintain the fresh water at a certain height on these rice fields, and all the complexity in that, if you actually study that and look at it. And they were saying, that was the women's job. They would actually go out there and stay by those gates just to make sure the warning system that they would use and all that. It wasn't really a heavy, hard job as far as taking care of those gates. The gates pretty much did it themselves. But the funny thing was who designed those gates. I mean, everything was taken on that it was the white man that came down here, and it wasn't. It was the Gullah. They were extremely knowledgeable people, and they're so much looked down upon. And actually, today, I had to do this video because every time I watch a YouTube video of it, it's kind of, they show the Christianized view of it and these beautiful people, and that's not the people I met. I mean, they had very strong convictions on knowledge and sharing that amongst the people. In fact, I'm calling him an elder. The person that I first talked to was actually younger than me, but he was very much following in the footsteps of the other elders. And he's the one that told me, he showed me the church down there. I mean, the way it was constructed with the concrete. I'm reading comments. You're in Cocoa Beach? Sorry to hear that. I'm having a hard time reading. But anyway, I'm going to be back on Saturday. Hopefully with some focus in my head. As far as the electrical stuff, also the copper pour, I said I was going to do those copper pours. I kind of put that off because working at 2,000 degrees and the damp humidity, it's just not a good mixture. I need to dry it out more. I think as far as the next week or so, I'll definitely get into pouring the copper. I got 2 things of copper right here. I wanted to make that, there it is, the seeds of life, these things. I wanted to make these out of copper for necklaces. As far as some other things, actually, I'm actually going to start getting into making some knives too. So basically parts for the knives. I'm always into a 500,000 things. And as long as my head's freaking like this, I can't get much done. Anyway, I think I'm going to wrap this up before I totally lose my thought. Peace and love all. I'll be back on here Saturday. I'd like to say about noontime, but with the sun, it's actually easier to do it when the sun's down because I got a south-facing window. Trying to control sunlight. So either maybe in the mornings, Saturday, it's probably the best time to actually do it. As far as the mushroom stuff and all of that, and getting back into the swamp, I'll be doing that soon. I've actually been itching to do that. Last couple of days, it's actually been so warm down here, which is actually sickly weather compared to me. I think that's actually what triggered me was when the temperature started skyrocketing back up. The birds and the wildlife has definitely returned to this area. I'm actually kind of on the downhill with the swamp, so I can tell when the activity starts down there. I've actually heard the owls. I have yet to see the owls, but I keep hearing the owls off in the distance. And I said ever since I got this camera, the owls all just totally disappeared. The owls like to hang out in these big angel oaks. Anyway, like I say, peace and love all, and I'll be back in the next 2 days. And mouse will turn off.